is mixed with a drug known as naloxone, which you've probably heard a little bit about. That's the one that they use to revive people from overdoses. So in other words, they've put it into a film which can't be split up, so that if you take too much Subuxone, the naloxone kicks in, and it's just a miserable time for the person. So just the act of abusing it leads to a terrible time, and it's not something that somebody would want to do twice. And because there's naloxone in it, you can't die from simply a Subuxone overdose.
In the report, you spoke to several different characters and several different experts, and you also had a video version. I want to play out a couple of clips, if I can, for our audience. You talked to a couple of characters that really summed up the argument and the tension there. You spoke to a judge who says that, she doesn't feel that that there is any place for drugs in the treatment process, and then you also spoke to a doctor who wants to be able to prescribe this. Let's take a listen.
I personally feel that when you're talking about Suboxone and methadone, you're talking about replacing one opioid for another. With heroin, you have to keep it a level just to feel decent. It's not even feeling high anymore, it's just to feel okay. And so when you detox someone in a jail facility, you're not giving them any treatment, you're not giving them any course of conduct to overcome the cravings, you're just housing and detoxing, basically. And I've talked to more than one heroin addict that's told me the same thing, that the memory of how difficult detoxing was one of the things that actually got them through not using again. Now, to get to that point is pretty hard.
The problem that I see is this lack of being more open-minded to the medical treatment of the problem. We're not contributing to the addiction. What we're giving people is a light at the end of the tunnel. If I have urges once I leave a treatment program, these urges could potentially kill me. So if I have a medication that can reduce those urges and allow a person to participate in life normally, what's wrong with that?
There's a lot of people that feel probably the same way the judge does. The idea that whether it's methadone or Suboxone, we're essentially just displacing one addiction for another, and then we're going to be on the hook paying for a lifelong addiction in some cases for some people. So what's been the response from people like the doctor to that?
Right, that's exactly right. And there is a lot of discomfort with the notion that you would do what's called maintenance. The drug war started about 100 years ago, and it's common now for people to say, look, the drug war has failed. We need to focus on treatment over incarceration. But the same kind of impulses that drove the drug war are actually now driving treatment, and that's looking at drug use through a prism of morality or politics. And that's kind of what the judge is doing there. She's saying, like, this seems wrong to me, or it seems wrong that we should be paying for somebody's addiction. But the doctor is saying, no, this is a medical issue. Step aside, allow the medical community to deal with it. And I said earlier that you simply can't die from Suboxone. That's too much. You can die from aspirin. You can die from anything. You should obviously be careful with whatever. But the doctor and others are saying this is a medical issue. Take politics and take morality out of it and deal with it based on the evidence.
So let's take an apples-to-apples comparison, if that's possible. How effective is Suboxone versus the standard of care that we have today, which is kind of a 30-day, 12-step program? What kind of relapse rates or dropout rates? How do we compare the two?
So the success rate for abstinence-based treatment, this is a 30 days, and then you go home and 10 meetings. It's hard to find precise numbers, but the consensus is that less than 10%. So that means more than 90% of these people are going to relapse, and they're in a very dangerous situation because they've gone through detox, they've gone cold turkey. Now all of a sudden, when they use the exact same amount of heroin that they used to, their tolerance is way down, and that's why an overdose can be fatal. So just looking at keeping people alive, Suboxone's success rate is staggeringly higher because it has this naloxone within it. Dropout rates, Dr. Sutholz has said his dropout rate is around 8%. And there still needs to be a lot more studies done of it, but it's much more effective than the status quo.
All right, Ryan Grimm, Washington Bureau Chief of the Huffington Post, who edited this article. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.